Can
this
you
down
hear
for a
me
nap.
okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I see people are joining. So obviously, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. How are the boys?
They are good, busy,
Really?
and going stir crazy. This quarantine has not been easy for them,
I
but
bet. I
we've
bet.
been making the most of it.
Are they napping right now?
Yeah, yeah. They're both of them, and then I keep a little girl,
Oh,
from my center, so she's here
yeah.
with us too, and she's
How old is she?
helpful. She is just turned a year last week.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
you definitely got your hands full, right?
Oh yeah, all the
How was
time.
how was Father's Day?
It was good. We went fishing. Nick loves to fish.
Yeah.
We just don't get to go often. He's always busy, and the boys keep us busy. So we end up going yesterday. They didn't catch anything.
Really? That's
Got a
okay.
lot of sun. Got a lot of sun. Got to play in the water for a little bit, but you know, it
Yeah.
is what it is. They had a good
Oh,
time.
yeah. I wanted Chris and Mason to go fishing yesterday too, but he just wanted to kind of relax and
Hang
spend the
out
day.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes a lot of patience. Chandler was a very patient. We were really surprised. We would cast his line for him, and then he just kind of sit there. He's like, "I'm being patient. They're not biting, but I'm being patient."
Right. So sweet. Well, obviously, I just want to say thank you, Sandra, for joining. Thank you, everybody in the room, for joining. Happy Monday. I wanted to bring you on to just have this conversation about mom life, right? I think, as moms, we wear so many different hats, but the mom life hat is the consistent one. It's the one that we can't turn off. It's always there, regardless
Hmm.
of the time of day. So I wanted to talk to you because, through my experience of motherhood, it's fresh, but I'm getting used to, the routine and the things that I want out of, mom life in general. I wanted to talk to you because I'm like, Sandra has been a really, really great role model for me for mom life, right? You
Oh
make it look
shucks.
so easy. You have two boys, so I know that's not easy in itself, but you make it look really easy, but in reality, it's not. So I just wanted to talk about that journey and all of your experiences. So what is it that you do, like outside of being a mom? What do you do
Go
at the
potty,
travel
Chandler.
center?
Sorry.
It is what it is. But yeah, what do you do in your work?
I'm sorry.
What do you do in your work? Hey, hi,
Oh,
Hello.
Chandler. How are you?
Okay.
Chandler,
Good.
go potty and then go get back in the bed.
Look, mom
Oh, you
life.
said what do I do at work?
Yeah. So what does your work consist of?
So I am the lead infant teacher at a five-star daycare. We just got our fifth star this year. And I take care of any infant between 0 and 12 months. I bounced around. I've been there for 3 years. I bounced around. I started in preschool, moved to three, and then into infants last year when I had my youngest. And I've instantly fell in love. I get to work with teen parents. I do a teen outreach program with the infants that come through my room. So we're connected to a high school,
Mhm.
and that high school is for at-risk teen and youth, and it's like an alternative high school. So the girls come over. We have expectant moms. We have moms. I mean, I think our oldest is up three right now. So we keep them all the way through preschool, but their first interactions are with me. So we do a lot of like a parenting 101 course is what I call it. We cover everything from picking a bottle, picking a pacifier, when to take the pacifier away, prenatal and postnatal disorders, first aid, safety. I mean, anything that you think you might need as a mom, we cover it. We bring people in to talk to them and make sure they have all the resources that they need. We have us a donation closet, so that if they need cribs, boppies, bouncers, anything you think of, we try to supply it. But it's definitely tough work, but it's something that I love.
Right.
Um, I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like you guys really do a lot of work. So, talk to us a little bit more about the teen parent outreach program, right? So, is this program
Mhm.
specifically for teenage moms moving into, that adult life and to just kind of get them on a better path to motherhood or to just better adjust? Or what's your main goal with the program?
Well, the main goal is to make sure that these girls have the opportunity to finish high school, and then get a high school diploma, to start their foundation and going into adulthood. A lot of my girls come in at 14 or 15, And either they come from a household that isn't completely together, or they don't have the best role models in their life. So I just try to set that foundation. I had my oldest at 20. Well, I was pregnant at 20, had him at 21. So I had him way before I was ready for kids, even though I have 5 brothers and sisters. I mean, you can never really be prepared for parenthood.
Right.
So I understand where they're at, where they're scared and they're not sure where to go in life or what to do in life. So I'm just making sure that they have the resources and the information that they need, because, you know, you hear a lot about people helping single moms or helping moms with kids with disorders, but you never really hear about people helping the moms who really need it, which is teen moms.
Right.
They're a big overlooked group, and they need that support as much as they, you know, they want to believe that they have it under control and have things under wraps. You know, it's just, they don't, and they need that support, and they definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's amazing. I think that's really awesome, what you're doing. And I know a lot of women can definitely benefit from that, right? Because, like you said, I don't think you can ever mentally or physically be ready for a child, but definitely having those resources beforehand makes a huge difference. So let's just kind of talk about your experience, right? Because you're now a mom of two boys.
Yeah.
So I know that's just, that's a handful in itself, right? But let's take it back to your first. So in that moment when you found out you were pregnant, what was that like for you? What was your thought process in that moment? I
was scared to death. My whole family, they were pregnant 16, 17, 15, all teen moms. So I was like, you know what? That's not gonna happen to me. Right. I'm gonna be prepared. I'm not. Then 20 hit and things happened. But I was so scared. I was lucky enough to have Nicholas, my fiance, and he was supportive the whole way through.
Again, by the
way. He was supportive the whole way through, and his family is a godsend. And my family as well. Everybody's been really supportive of us. Chandler, we definitely leaned on our village a little bit more. I was kind of hell bent on figuring things out my own way, because there were things that happened in my childhood that I definitely didn't want my son to experience. And the same with Nick. So that we had to kind of put our foot down and like, we're young, but we understand, well, you know, we know what we're doing. We know what we want to happen. We'll take your advice, you know, and apply it where necessary. So figuring that part of finding my voice and, you know, how to interact with people who were so much older than me and had all this knowledge and they just wanted to share, and taking that and mixing it with having my own parenting style. So with Chandler, I figured that out. And then with Flacco, it's a lot easier. I know a lot of the things that I'm going through with him, we went through with Chandler, and some of the things I'm not, but I kind of, with the knowledge that I have with working through with early childhood, and other babies and other children, and I'm able to maneuver with him a little bit easier. Because that child is a handful. They're complete opposite, like night and day.
You know, they always say the second child is the one that's going to give you.
That he might put me in a home when he gets older. Like he's definitely.
So cute, he's so cute. Like
it's all a front. It's all a
front. But no, I really, I agree with what you said, right? Because, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm still kind of on the threshold of being a new mom and moving into who I want to be as a parent, right? And I think one thing I've definitely learned is, you know, it definitely does take a village to raise a child, right? But I'm also in the process of breaking generational curses. So for me, that looks a little bit different, right? You know, the way, you know, you may have done things with me or whatever, you know, your kids, that may not be how I want to do things with me. And I don't want to offend anyone in the process, but I definitely know there are things that I want to do a little bit differently. So, so that's very understandable. But what differences can you see between the two boys? Because how many years apart are they?
Chandler he'll be 5 in August, and Nicholas just turned 1 in January. So they're roughly like 4.5 years apart.
Okay.
Chandler is my wild child. He marches to the beat of his own drum. He is very creative and he's active and he's such a boy. He's like just 100% boy. I want to jump and wrestle and fight. And like and then Nicholas is like an evil mastermind. Like he like he started off this cute and cuddly, like just love bug, and then out of nowhere it just kind of flipped, and he's very opinionated, he's very vocal. Nicholas is brilliant. We took him to the doctor, and they end up doing an evaluation on him, and he operates at the cognitive level of like a 2.5-year-old. Nicholas is brilliant. Like he is very vocal. He'll tell you what he wants, how he wants it, when he wants it. So that is the major difference between them. Chandler kind of went with the flow a little bit more, and Nicholas is like, no. No. And you're like Flacco, you come on, we got to do it. No, I'm not. Like, I'm not. And that's definitely been the biggest difference. And then disciplining them is just, certain things work with Chandler that didn't work with Flacco, and vice versa. So just like not comparing. One of the biggest things is what I've learned with having two boys is not comparing them. Not because each child is their own individual person. So you want to make, like, I try to make sure that I treat them as individuals, and make sure that each of their individual needs are catered to the way they need them to be.
So, so with that being said, let's talk about discipline. Because I think right now I'm in that stage of figuring out how to discipline. Right? He's one, he's coming into his own personality, he's growing, and he's starting to get into things a little bit more. But for me, I'm definitely more on the soft parenting style, right? Especially right now, because, you know, he's my little baby, he's still a little boy. And I'm like, I don't really want to discipline him right now because he won't really understand what's going on. He's starting to understand, but he won't fully understand the capacity of discipline. So how did you discipline Chandler, and what do you see different with how you discipline baby Flacco?
So with Chandler, we were a lot more hands-on with discipline. I am 100%, like Jennifer, I'm 100% for gentle parenting. We grew up in the age where you pop first and ask questions, and you don't even ask questions after that. You pop them, and that's the end of that. That's no. And, and I'm not like children. You have to think with children, even infants, they're people. So you can't expect a child or an infant, Chandler, 5 years old, I can't expect him to sit down for more than 3 minutes without wanting to click to the next thing, because I know my attention span doesn't surpass maybe at 5 to 10 minutes. So I can't expect him as a 5-year-old. So just, understanding that, and then figuring out ways to get your point across as a parent, and kind of set those boundaries at the same time. With Chandler, we were a lot more hands-on, and I absolutely regret it. We popped him, we spanked him, and we kind of do still pop and spank with him because, at this age, he kind of gets it now. He understands, like, actions have consequences. But there also, you can also see where we started popping him too early. And with Flacco, we definitely flipped the script. We talk to him, we redirect. Positive redirection is always, especially with 1-year-olds, positive redirection, and just redirection in general, can get you to the point where you want. Like today, Nicholas is a hitter. He gets angry and he tries to slap you, or he'll try to pop you, or anything. He'll try to throw things. But catching him in that action, if you want to hit me, or if you're angry, let's go over here and you can hit the pillow. Or if you're angry, instead of hitting your brother, you can go over here and you can play by yourself. And if that escalates, we have crying pillow. So if you wanna be upset and you wanna cry, you can lay over here in your quiet corner and you can cry on your crying pillow. When you're all done and you're ready to talk and you're ready to join us again, then you can come back and we can talk about it. And he's able to understand that. And something as simple as just taking his direction away from hitting or biting or whatever the action that I don't want him to do. And taking it over to something else usually does the trick. So just learning and that's something that working in childcare taught me, that not everything has to be as no, stop, like, it can be, hey, let's try something else. Hey, let's do this. Let's see if this, I understand how you're feeling. Let's try something else.
No, I love that. I really love that. And like I said, for me, I think that's just kind of automatically built in me. I'm just like naturally sweet. So of course, when it comes to my child, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be extra sweet.
Yeah.
But looking at it from his dad's perspective, right? So, obviously his dad, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but he don't want to raise no punk, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from his perspective, it's like, you got to stop being so soft on that boy. You got to toughen him up and
Mm-hmm.
roughing him up. So, having boys, do you think, or even from your fiance's perspective, I mean, do you think that overall the gentle parenting will work even when it comes to boys and raising men in that aspect?
Definitely, definitely. It doesn't, I mean, at the end of the day, a child is a child. And they're a person beyond that, they're a person at the end of the day. I know
Right.
for me, if I would respond better to somebody saying, hey, I didn't like what you did to me,
Okay.
or hey, let's not do that, and this is why, then somebody smacking me in the face or
Yeah.
popping me on my hand or popping me on the butt. Nicholas he's a firm believer in spare the rod, spoil the child. Um, and to some extent I am too. But we also understand that, you don't want your child to fear you. At the end of the day, while you want to be the authority figure in that child, and make sure they understand that there is a hierarchy and they sit here and you sit here.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
that
And
you
I think
can
that's
get
how
that
we
point
all grew up,
across
in a sense.
without having, yeah, you can get that point across without having those kind of interactions. There are like 1,000,000,005 different ways for you to discipline a child, and without having to pop them. Now, I'm not saying that, popping is bad, because I mean, we still do it. I mean, there are
Yeah.
times where, if I'm talking to you and I talk to you 3 times about the same thing and you're not getting it through your head that, I'm gonna pop you on your hand, I'm gonna spank you on your butt, but we don't go out of our ways. Like for me, belts, switches, chocolate, like flip
Yeah.
flops, anything that, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, and you can definitely see, like, our children are able to communicate with us better. About Chandler can tell you, I'm frustrated and this is why I'm frustrated. And we can say, we understand why you're frustrated, but you're not doing it. Like, no, the answer is no. If you want something,
Mhm.
if you are frustrated, you can go somewhere and you can write it down. You can color a picture about being frustrated.
Yeah.
Um, just there's so many different ways um, for you to communicate and discipline your child. And that gentle parenting isn't going to turn them soft. It's going to teach them, in the end, effective communication.
Mm.
And once you can communicate with a child, I mean, it's smooth sailing from there.
Totally agree. Yeah, no, I love that, and I definitely plan on implementing a lot more of that gentle, affectionate, just communication with my child versus spanking or beating if necessary.
And that doesn't even mean, and that even gentle parent, you can still be stern and be a gentle parent. I mean, you
Mhm.
can set clear boundaries um, and
Yeah,
still not pop your kid.
yeah. And I see someone in the comments said, completely agree, all feelings are valid. And that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a child, your feelings are valid. Just because you're a little person
Exactly.
doesn't mean that, your feelings aren't necessary or they aren't valid. They are
Mm-hmm.
humans.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely agree. Um, so kind of, just pivoting the conversation, right? Just looking at the things that you do in your community or with other teen moms and just the things that you've been through in general with your 2 kids. What's your aspect on postpartum depression? Is that something that you
Oh my
experience?
goodness. Yeah. So with Chandler, I wouldn't say I had the perfect pregnancy. Like, I hate being pregnant. Like,
Really?
with that, like, the if I can just get the baby without the pregnant part, I would do it all the
What?
time.
I
I
loved being
hate, I
pregnant.
hate
Oh,
being pregnant.
really? Well, what did you go through?
Yeah.
What was
With
that
Chandler,
like?
I had so many complications with Chandler. Just like, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks with kidney stones. It
Mm,
was just so much with Chandler. But I didn't experience the prenatal or the postnatal depression. It was still like, I got a baby. I was happy. I was still
okay.
myself to the extent. With Nicholas, it was definitely the opposite. I experienced prenatal anxiety, prenatal depressions, and then postnatal anxiety. Didn't get
Okay.
the depression part, but definitely the anxiety. Uh, During the pregnancy, I can't even count on my hands how many times I just went to bed bawling and crying. I had the
Okay.
worst insomnia. Um, there were days that I just didn't want to get out of bed. I was angry for no reason.
Mhm.
And it was one particular, and I had went through and I was angry. So I clean when I'm angry. So I cleaned the whole house, and I just sat in my room and I just bawled and crumbled. And Nick found me. He was like, yo, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't feel like myself. Something is wrong. Like I could literally drive my car off the side of the road. Like that's how wrong it was.
Really?
And then so we end up going to my OB, who in turn sent me to a psychologist or psychiatrist. And we sat down and we talked about the feelings and where those feelings were coming from. And she ended up saying, well, you know, there's this thing called prenatal depression, and I definitely think you're suffering from it. And I had heard of postpartum, but never of prenatal. I didn't know that was something you can experience while you're pregnant. And so we talked about the different avenues and coping mechanisms. She offered medication, and we decided against that. Just we weren't sure the effects on the baby, even though she said that they were very limited. We didn't want to kind of put him through that. So we end up having a list of coping strategies and then figuring out which one worked for me. And then having that support system of Nick was definitely a major, major component. I would not have made it through the pregnancy with Flocka without Nicholas by myself. Like by my side, he could see when I was getting upset or when I was getting into those moods, and he was able to try to pull me out of them, or send me into like a coping mechanism and whatnot. And then postnatal and postpartum depression, postpartum depression, anxiety. Those are just things that, you know, we kind of saw coming, and we kind of prepared for. So we knew that this was the chance of me experiencing it, and these were the things that we needed to do to kind of combat it, whether that be writing everything out, going on a walk, talking it out, you know, painting, drawing, anything that could possibly pull me out of meditation. We did a lot of meditation, anything that could pull me out of that mood. And it's crazy that we caught it the way we did, because nobody could have told me that, you know, that was something that I was going to go through and something that I was going to experience. And a lot of the times Black women in general aren't diagnosed with postpartum, you know, their feelings aren't validated in that way at the doctor's office. So I was lucky enough to have a doctor, or I had a midwife, who was able to recognize that and say, you know, this is what you have and this is where you need to go, and we need to get this figured out. Because not every Black woman or woman in general is able to get that kind of help. So that's one of the things that I talk to my girls about, is recognizing when you're not feeling like yourself, so that you can then advocate for yourself in those circumstances. So you can tell your doctor, this is what I need, this is how I'm feeling, I need you to do something about it. But that's, I mean, it's very sad that we have to go through any woman who has to go through this, but Black women in general go through this without having their feelings, or women having their feelings validated and giving the help that they need. Yeah,
for sure. I'm happy that you actually had, you know, someone certified there that actually took your feelings into consideration to get you the help that you needed. So I mean, during that process, did they determine, you know, what caused it? Was it, you know, maybe not understanding or not knowing what to expect with your second child, or?
It's not something that necessarily causes it. It's definitely like a hormonal imbalance. And it's something that, you know, it's like I said, I mean, 2 pregnancies, it can happen in your first pregnancy, it can happen in your second pregnancy, it's something that can happen. What? Take this in the other room. I love you. Go ahead. I'm talking. This is Kiana. Hey, Kiana. Hi. Just sit down in your room, watch your tablet. It's something that, you know, it's not something that can be predicted. It's not something that can be necessarily pinpointed or say, like, this is what caused your prenatal or postnatal or postpartum depression. It's something that is just, it just happens. You know, it's one of the things that, you know, you can't really figure out, but you know that you have to, you know, you have to look forward and not backward. Like, why am I acting like this? How am I going to get out of this?
Right. Yeah. So I want to take some questions from the comments. I see we have one person, B Shimbo says, what are your parenting style, or what are parenting styles that your parents did that you don't want to repeat in your kid's life? It's a great question.
I have a list. I have a whole list. I don't want my children to not feel, I don't want them to feel less than. I don't want my children, like I don't want them to feel like their voices aren't heard.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the things that I deal with. I have a lot of social anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very timid and soft-spoken because being in my household, you couldn't speak up. I mean, you spoke up and it was like, who are you talking to?
Exactly.
You know, you need to go. Like, I'm the adult, you're the child.
Exactly.
There are a lot of toxic traits or a lot of toxicity in my family that, you know, I won't allow my children around drugs. I will never, ever, 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 you know, I won't drink, smoke, anything in front of my children. If I do it, they won't know about it until they're much older. I'm not going to bring people around my children who I don't feel 100% confident in. Or I don't know, you know, I won't allow my children to go places, not necessarily go places, but, you know, I won't let my children experience things for the first time without me. I don't want them to be able to go to Jim's house down the street and see something that I didn't have the chance to talk to them about first.
Right.
You know, I know you can't control everything, and you can't control everything because life happens, but I also want my children to be prepared, and know that they can talk to me about anything, and everything. And they won't be judged. That's another big one. No, I don't want them to be judged. I want them to know that love comes without limits. There's no conditional. Like, I didn't learn unconditional love until I was with Nicholas. I didn't know what that was. And I want my kids to know that my parents love me. I can ask for $1 million and it won't come with conditions. Like, they'll give me the $1 million and just be like,
just is what it is.
I mean, that's it. Yeah. So that's, I mean, generational curses and learning from your childhood is definitely something. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. And my mom's in here, so, you know, I love you to death, Mom, but we got to keep it real. But I mean, it's pretty much similar to what you said, right? I think having a voice in a Black household as a child wasn't a thing, right? As soon as you speak up for yourself, you're deemed disrespectful or you know, whatever the case may be. So I definitely want my child to know that he can talk to me about anything, and there's no limits to it. Even if I don't like it, I know that, you know, as a parent, it's going to come. So we got to have that conversation and navigate through any experience. But yeah, and like I said, you know, I'm still learning as a mom. I'm still growing, but I definitely know that there are things that I won't approve of. And we just have to go through it together. I think that's really just my main thing. So
that's definitely it. It's just, I mean, with like anything in life, it comes with ups and downs. It's just navigating those ups and downs. The way that you navigate those ups and downs and the way that you react to them is the biggest thing of parenthood. You can't control how you feel about things, but you can control the narrative. You can control how the way you can control how you come off, and you can control how that conversation goes.
For sure.
But yeah, those is just ending those generational curses, and especially within the Black community, making communication the center of a parent-child relationship. It's just, I mean, it's absolutely necessary, and it's such a shame that it's taken our generation, and you see it a lot more with our generation because we were so shut out in our households. But it's a shame that it's taken so long for us to realize this. That, you know, Black people need therapy, like Black children need therapy. I mean, and they need to be understood.
Yeah, for sure. And it is sad that it's taken so long for us to be the change that we've wanted to see all of these years. But I'm so very happy that, you know, we are doing it, because I see, you know, like you, for example, and so many other new moms, like, they're making it a point to be active in their kids' life, to research, you know, things that they want to change or want to do better. Even, you know, with Black fathers, I think, you know, so many Black fathers. Yesterday was a beautiful day for Black fathers.
I know.
You know, everything that happened last night, but it was a beautiful day. I just saw so much love and, like, just so many great Black fathers enjoying Father's Day. So I'm happy that we're starting somewhere, right?
Exactly.
I think, you know, that's all we can do.
That's all you can ask for. I mean, if you can't decide when the change is going to happen, but when it does, all you can do is implement it and make sure it's seen.
Yeah. So I want to touch on one more thing before we kind of move on to the next subject. But I know we're talking about postpartum depression and things like that. What's up, man? What you doing?
What you doing?
Watching this movie again.
Yeah, you chilling with
You can
mommy?
sit beside me. You can sit beside me.
You know, just speaking on postpartum depression and things like that. My experience with postpartum depression, I don't think it was really, you know, depression from having the baby. I think it was depression stemmed from, you know, my life is changing. Like, this is a huge life shift, and I have to figure out how to navigate through it, and because this is my new norm. So I don't really think I experienced depression in that aspect, but I did suffer from like major separation anxiety, right?
Yeah.
You know, I had 4 months off of work. So throughout that entire 4 months, it was, you know, me and Mason just bonding and, you know, loving and getting to know each other and all that. So when I had to go back to work, it was a mess. I mean, crying on the job, just like a mess.
Like any other mom.
Yeah, but like it's not a good feeling. And I feel like, you know, even as he gets older and, you know, we're thinking about sending him to daycare soon, I don't think as a parent you ever get rid of separation anxiety. You just kind of learn how to navigate through it. So how do you do that as an experienced mom? How do you deal with, or is that something you deal with? And if so, how do you control it?
My separation anxiety with Chandler was a lot worse than it is with Nicholas. Chandler was the first. So outside of having him in my, and I ended up taking a whole extra month off of work after I had him. I had planned aside 3 months and ended up taking the fourth just because I wasn't ready. But we ended up having, it was one of the things we just had to do, and we ended up having a family friend. They ended up recommended somebody for us to come in our house and watch him there. So that kind of helped because I knew the person who was coming to watch my child, and I also had constant communication with that person. They sent me pictures every hour on the hour that I can text them, call them, and I knew they were going to pick up and answer. I can see my child. So that helped a lot, just having that kind of reassurance. And that's a lot of the things that I do with my parents. That first week of daycare is hell for the parent and for the baby. And so having that, making sure that the parent knows that I'm here 24/7, open line to communicate. You can pop up in the daycare if you want to, and it's going to be the same kind of service that I showed you when you came in toward my room. But sending them pictures, sending them updates, having like I do a infant log, and so I write down every meal, every bottle, every diaper, anything that happened in that day goes on this log, so they know they have that kind of consistency, and that kind of eases that separation anxiety. When I was with Chandler, when I was away from him, I had left a shirt for him at home. So he always we breastfed. So he always had to have something to feed with my scent on it, because it kind of made him feel at ease. And the same with me, I would bring like one of his onesies, or like I would keep a picture on my desk. And that kind of helped ease those nerves, along with the constant communication. With Nicholas, I could have kicked him to the curb at like 5 or 6 weeks. I love him so much. He's just like a different breed. And I think it wasn't as bad because he was at the center that I'm at, that I work out. So I know everybody at my job, they love him like they're his own son. So I didn't have to worry about who I was leaving him with. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, with him, he's the second kid always gets it the worst. Like the first one's always like, oh, I love you. You're this precious little, like, I can't let anything. The second one, it can jump off a roof. They're like, oh, you're all right.
You'll be good.
You'll be good. Your brother did it. You'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. And I think, you know, like I said, now that, you know, my baby is growing up into his own, looking back on the first year of his life, I just think it was, you know, that new mom syndrome, not wanting anything to ever happen to your first baby. They're so precious, but, you know, it's life. They're going to grow up. And I'm sure if and when we do have another one, you know, it'll be a breeze.
It'll be, the second one's definitely easier as far as parenting goes, because you kind of already did it. So you don't really have to worry about that. But separation anxiety, I mean, it comes with the job. I mean, it just comes with the job, and just that regardless of, you know, as long as you trust the person that you're leaving your child with, I mean, you know that they're going to be in good. Speaking of the second one.
Hi, little man. Hey, you're so cute. Baby,
No.
how old are you?
How old are you?
How old are you?
Bobo.
Big boy. Yeah, we've got to get the boys up soon.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, I need you to sit
Hey.
down. This is
No,
why I did
we're
this.
almost done because I know you
Oh
gotta
no,
get.
you're fine.
Okay.
They're
But
they're
no, I
just
did want
running
to touch
around.
on one thing because, when I first, had Mason, obviously, breastfeeding was a huge thing for me. It was something that I really wanted to do. But it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. And from my experience, Mason, he didn't want to latch. So it was really, really stressful trying to stay on top of that, pumping exclusively and just trying to feed him my breast milk. So what was your experience like? Because I know you helped me out a lot in that process and it seemed easy for you. So
Breastfeeding definitely came a little bit easier for me than expected. With Chandler, I fed for 8 or 9 months. And then we moved to formula just because that he got teeth and it got real painful and we just kind of stopped. Nicholas, we made it to 13.5 months before we got him off the boob. Latching is definitely a hit or miss thing. Nicholas, we had a really rough month with latching. There were times where he would latch perfectly. There were times where he was like, nope, not gonna do it. There were times that he would only take the left boob and I needed him to take the right. I mean, it was definitely it was a up and down and vicious cycle with him. But once we got it down packed, it was definitely a lot easier and a lot more smooth. It's one of those things where every mom is different because every mom has a different body type. You can't say that, this is going to work for you and it's without a doubt going to work because you don't know what size that mom's nipples are. You don't know if that baby has a tongue tie or a lip tie. You don't know what's going on. Every situation is definitely on an individual basis. So learning and knowing that the different avenues and different techniques definitely helps. I always recommend anybody to go see a lactation consultant. It's one of the reasons that I went through that training and I'm still going through that training, is because I wanted to be able to knowledgeably give the advice instead of just saying, well, this is what I did and this could have worked.
Yeah, true. Because my experience was, like I said, we tried it in the beginning. He wouldn't latch, so I was just so passionate about it. I decided to exclusively breast pump. But even with doing that, my milk supply kind of replenished around 7 months. So at 7 months, we had to make that change and switch over to formula. So, as a lactation consultant, is there any advice that you can give to new moms or expecting moms who may want to breastfeed? And is there anything they can do beforehand to kind of prepare themselves? Because even to this day, I don't even know why my milk kind of went away. It was just like, oh, no more milk. Okay, formula.
Definitely prepare. I would definitely talk to your OB/GYN, talk to a lactation consultant, read up on, different natural natural aids to help with breastfeeding. I definitely drink tons of water. Water is your best friend. As long as you are hydrated, you can produce milk for the most part. Keeping on a fixed schedule. Once the baby's here, the first week to two, really the first month, you want to establish a schedule with him on the boob. You're going to produce the most milk with your child nursing on each side. Now, if you're having problems with that latch, or if you're having problems, and it's uncomfortable for you, or the child is not for it, and you have to exclusively pump, the schedule that you have to keep that supply up, because you're not getting in the baby's saliva, that's something that releases a hormone in your body to recognize that you're feeding a child.
Yeah.
So because you don't have that attachment, you're not going to have that same kind of production as you would with a child who's nursing on your boob. Right. So you're going to have to, if you're feeding your child every 4 hours, you're going to have to pump every 2 hours to every hour and a half to keep up with that supply and demand. And once you establish that baseline, it never stops. moms who exclusively pump, it's a full-time job. It's like, it's one of
It
those
is.
things that it's one of those
Yeah.
things you can't like, oh, I don't feel like pumping. No,
Right. You
it's
can't
like
nap. You can't do anything.
every 2 hours on the dot for the same
Yeah.
period of time, keeping up with your supplements, having a well-balanced diet. When you're breastfeeding, you want to eat a lot of grains and oats. Those are like milk boosters. You want to make sure you're taking your vitamins. I always recommend Legendary Milk supplements. Those are like
I
godsends.
love those.
Like they have
I
all
love
kinds of
it.
cookies and snacks
Yeah.
and they have all kinds of things. And I definitely, those are things that if people are having supply issues, I send them their way, because that's something that we used and we had to use once, and it kind of fixed the problem.
Yeah.
But just, having a well-balanced diet, making sure you're drinking tons of water, making sure you have an established and consistent schedule, whether you're feeding your child on the breast or if you're pumping. Those are all like basically necessities when it comes to breastfeeding. And then if you're having those problems and you can't seem, and you just can't seem to seeking the help of a lactation consultant, because it could be something as simple as you're using the wrong size flange on your breast pump. And you're not able to get, or it could be something as simple as, your child, or as complicated as your child has a tongue tie. So that's why they aren't able to latch properly. And so you have to go get that fixed. And then it's like a whole new baby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, sometimes having that extra helping hand to help guide you through those things, is definitely a helping hand. And for like women of color, you have to be extremely, I would say, when you're pregnant, and you're wanting to breastfeed, definitely reach out to the women in your circle, or reach out to a lactation or a doula or a midwife, or somebody who is knowledgeable on those topics, because once you're in the hospital, they're going to push that formula on you. Black women are 63% less likely to breastfeed, because doctors and nurses in the hospitals are just, they don't promote it. They don't support it for whatever reason that is.
Yeah.
And so if you're wanting that, you need to like have that in your major mind up on breastfeeding, just making sure that you have that knowledge, and you're demanding the support that you need while you're in the hospital, to set that baseline, is extremely important. And I always tell all my moms, when they come through, to make sure, once you've made up your mind, make sure you have it all written out, all your questions, because you might see your lactation consultant once when you're in the hospital. And that, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. But just speaking on, the entire hospital experience versus having a doula or a midwife, because I think, as a Black woman who gave birth in a hospital, it was scary, right? Like, it was a really scary experience, but I'm very thankful for my OB. She was great. She was gentle. She was really nurturing, but not every Black woman, especially in America, has that experience in the hospital. So what was your birthing experience like? I know you did a midwife, right?
Yeah, I had a midwife. Chandler, we had an OB. He was a family OB.
And then kind of explain to us what like the midwife and the doula is for people who may not know.
So we had a family OB, and that's just a normal obstetrician, who's licensed to deliver, care for, whether it be surgical or non-surgical when it comes to babies and women who are expecting. A midwife is very similar to an obstetrician. However, they don't have that license to cut. So if you end up needing a C-section, or any kind of additional surgeries when you have your baby, you can't seek a midwife. Or you can have a midwife, but they won't do your C-section. And then a doula is a birthing aid. If I could have had a doula each pregnancy, I would have. It's one of the biggest regrets that I have about my pregnancies, not having a doula. They are like your birth advocate. If you are out of your mind in pain and you can't properly speak, or you like Jennifer is one of my good friends. She had a birth plan. If you don't have a birth plan, they are there to be your advocate. They are your voice. They give you support all throughout your pregnancy. Whatever you need, I mean, a doula has it. I mean, whether it be, and it's 9 times out of 10 holistic. And when you have your baby, whether it be a C-section or a natural birth, they are there to tell your doctor, this is what you want, this is what she wants, this is how she wanted it. And if your doctor gives any pushback, your doula is there to be that person to be like, no, You know, I know that you can do XYZ. Then do it. Technically she is your customer. You need to, you need to abide by her wishes. As long as it's not medically compromising her or the child, there's no reason that you can't do it. So I definitely recommend doulas to any and everybody. I had C-sections with both of my boys.
Same.
No.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about as well, because
No.
I also had a C-section.
If you want a snack, go downstairs and get a snack, but you're not getting a ring pop. I'm sorry.
I also had a C-section, and it was like, I even told my doctor beforehand, I'm like, please make sure you guys do everything you can to avoid having a C-section. I so badly wanted to have a vaginal birth or give vaginal birth. But, obviously things change when you go into labor, a lot of stuff goes out of the window. But now I'm at the stage where I'm like, if I were to have another kid, is vaginal birth still an option for me, or are they going to force a C-section?
It is. Chandler, we went in for a vaginal birth. His heart rate dropped, my blood pressure spiked, which is like the worst mix you could have basically asked for. So they rushed me in and I had an emergency C-section. With Nicholas, I wanted a VBAC, a vaginal birth after C-section. And that was in my birth plan. I was like, by all means necessary, I want a VBAC. And I wanted to be able to birth naturally. I didn't want to epidural. I wanted to birth in the water. I wanted to
It's not open.
okay, well then you're gonna have to be patient. I wanted to be able to labor in the water. I wanted to be able to give birth sitting straight up. I had a whole list of things. And then when we went into the doctor, basically all the way up until about 7 months, that was the plan. And then they do this thing that compares the statistics and your risk factors. When you are doing a VBAC. So for me, the worst part of my labor with Chandler was I was in labor for 28 hours. And it was just, they had to do volleyballs. I was like, I don't want to get into the gory details of it, but it was very painful. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be able not to be able to walk. I didn't want to have to go through that kind of pain again. So when I let them know that, they're like, well, these are your risk factors. You are 75% more likely to stall at birth like you did the last time. And there's another 25% chance that you won't. So, there's 75%, there's the 25% where you'll be able to, go through the birth, but you're still going to have to be hooked up to a monitor. You're still going to have to get these drugs. You're still going to have to do. And it was one of those things for me. What, baby? You saw a puppy dog? He's obsessed with puppy dogs right now. It was one of those things for me where it was like, I don't want to go through that kind of pain again. So I just went ahead and went for the second C-section. If I can't birth my way and you're saying these limitations are going to have to be placed or you're not going to deliver my baby, it was one of those things where like, okay, I'll just go ahead and I'll have the C-section. But for anybody who, has that option and they were wanting to have that VBAC and you're willing to, kind of go through those kind of extremities or you don't have those limitations, I would definitely give it a shot. There's nothing wrong with having a C-section. I went through the same pain any other mother would in labor. And even afterwards, like, it's one of those things where like, it doesn't make you any less of a mother for having the surgery.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, regardless of what your specific birth plan is, just make sure that it's known. And you're advocating for yourself or you have somebody there to advocate for you. Because Black women are like 8 times more likely to die in childbirth because doctors don't take them seriously. Women in color in general are like, I think overall women in color are 10 times more likely to die in childbirth. Which is because their needs and their voices aren't heard. So just making sure that you have somebody there to advocate. I want my child delivered and I want the umbilical cord to stay on until it's not pulsing anymore. Or I want the whole placenta delivered and I want them to stay attached to it, and making sure that you have the support that you need there to make sure that happens. Wawa, yes. You're welcome.
Definitely.
But yeah, just as far as going into the hospital, it can definitely be the scary pace, but as long as you're educated and you have somebody there as your support system or advocate, I mean, it can be the most non-stressful thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about how you make the experience and having the knowledge to be able to go through these experiences and come out alive and healthy in the end.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what's most important.
Definitely.
So if anyone on here, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask us now. We're gonna wrap up soon. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want, you know, people out there to know, especially the new moms or expectant moms right now? What do you want them to know or just take away from the entire mom life experience?
Don't compare your experience to anybody else's. My experience is definitely completely different from Kiana's experience. We may have some similarities in certain things, and I'd be able to give her advice on things, but what she goes through can be completely different than what I go through. Don't feel guilty for caring for yourself. If you cannot care for yourself, you cannot effectively care for your children. And those vibes that you have when you're not caring for yourself, your children can see them and your children can feel them. Mom guilt is a real thing. Like it is a real thing. I suffer from it. I feel so bad. Like the other day, I felt bad because me and Nico went and got ice cream and we didn't get the kids ice cream. It's mom guilt is a real thing, and you want to put your kids before you want to put your kids.
Didn't get me ice cream.
I didn't get you ice cream. I mean, oh, kiddo. I mean, mom guilt is a real thing, and it's one of those things that you just have to like. You want to constantly put your kid before yourself, but you can't do that all the time. Like you have to put, at some point in your motherhood experience, you have to put yourself first. Because the whole house, it crumbles. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I love dads and dads doing effective jobs, but there are certain things that like kids are like, no, my mom cut my hot dog like this. If you can't cut my hot dog like this, I won't eat it. So you just have to make sure that you you are puppy dogs.
Give me some
That you
snacks.
I'm gonna get you some snacks.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
You're
They're
being
too
rude.
cute.
But just making sure that you have that support and you have that self-care is definitely very important. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of your kid. Don't feel bad when you're taking care of yourself. Like, it's going to be really hard, but don't feel bad for it. Like everybody needs that breather. And then another big thing I would definitely advise is talk to your doctor about your kids. Like if you notice something is wrong or you notice something is off about, talk to your doctor about it. Don't just brush it off. Don't be like, oh, well, I mean, this is kind of normal, right? Like, no, talk to your doctor about those things, because and a lot of it could be something as small as, hey, we need to bring in a speech therapist, or hey, these are some techniques but it could be something as big as your kid has autism. Like, talk to your doctor and don't be afraid to have those conversations. That is like early prevention and those kind of, or early intervention and those kind of moments is extremely important. And I will 100%, 110% like say this all day, every day. There is no shame in having a therapist for your child. Play therapy, speech therapy, any kind of therapy. I mean, it's nothing but benefit for you and your kid. So definitely talk to your doctors and have a very open line of communication with them when it comes to your child, because you don't want to set your child up for failure at the end of the day.
For sure. Well, this was an amazing conversation. We can go on for days and days and days about mommyhood, but I really appreciate you coming on. This was awesome. I'm so happy I got to see those two little munch.
Oh, yeah.
But we definitely got to set up a mommy day.
Yes, we do.
Do you know when you're going to be back in Charlotte?
I'm actually coming on Tuesday. I'm going with Brittany to go dress shopping.
Oh, dang.
For the wedding. And then
we'll have to plan something else.
We're going dress shopping, and then we're stopping by to see a couple people, and then after that, I don't know, then we'll come back. But we'll definitely get the boys together.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
no problem.
it. And wait, before you go, can we expect? Are we trying for baby number 3?
Oh God,
a little girl, maybe.
Let Nico tell it. The baby will be here next year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The way they at this rate.
I have a track record for having boys,
Mhm.
and I can't take another one. I'm already like out testosterone in this house. There's more
Yeah.
Nerf guns in here than
Thank
I
you.
have. Like, it's I don't know. If we can guarantee a girl,
I
then
think
yes.
the third
If we
time is
can't,
a charm, so I'm rooting for a
I
baby
see.
girl.
But that's how you end up with
I
5
know.
kids. That's
I
how you
know.
be like, oh yeah, I think the third, maybe the
Right.
fourth, maybe
Right.
the fifth. No.
Right. But no, this was
Yeah.
amazing. This was so amazing. Thank you so much.
Anytime,
I'll let you
anytime.
go. Bye, boys. Y'all
Dila,
bye
bye-bye.
bye. Bye
Say bye.
bye.
Dila, bye-bye.
Bye.
No.
All right, Sandra. Thank you.
See ya. No
Aw,
problem.
Bye. Oh, that was so awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'm going to have the playback coming up soon. So thank you. Bye-bye.